Hello dear viewers, my name is Ferdinand Nouri and I'm an immigration consultant in Germany. As you know, in my previous video I explained for you the requirements for an EU permanent residence permit in Germany and how you can get it in this country. Today I would like to explain for you under which conditions you can get a residence permit with your EU permanent residence permit from another EU country in Germany so that you can work, study, or do a vocational training with it in this country. As you know, the nationals of the third countries who are living in European Union countries, especially in Bulgaria, Spain, Greece, or Italy, are increasingly relocating their center of living to Germany because they either have lost their work and their livelihood in the financial or social crisis in the previous years in these countries, or because they see for themselves better prospects in the German labor market. Especially those people who have got a refugee protection or a subsidiary protection in an EU country want to come to Germany and stay in this country for a long period of time or permanently. If a national of a third country has an EU permanent residence permit from another EU country, he or she has the possibility to get a residence permit in Germany based on Section 38A of German Residence Act, and he can stay with it for longer than 3 months in Germany under certain conditions. However, this rule does not apply to Ireland and Denmark, and these countries neither issue EU permanent residence permit nor the holders of an EU permanent residence permit from another EU member state can get a residence permit in these countries. It's worth mentioning that this rule also did not apply to the Great Britain when it was a European Union member state. If you have a permanent residence permit from another European Union country and you are not sure if it is an EU permanent residence permit, here you can see how an EU permanent residence permit is called in the languages of different EU member states. Based on the European Union country where you have received your permanent residence permit from, you can see if one of these phrases or names in their official languages appear in your residence permit. If one of these phrases or names does appear in your residence permit, then it is an EU permanent residence permit. If none of these phrases or names appear in your permanent residence permit, in some cases there is still the possibility that you have an EU permanent residence permit. Especially it is the case with Italy and Spain. This can be clarified by the embassy of the relevant EU country or the relevant authority of the EU country which has issued your permanent residence permit. If it's really an EU permanent residence permit, one of these authorities can in fact then issue a written confirmation about it for you. Here you can see an example of an EU permanent residence permit from Italy. In fact, every third country national who has an EU permanent residence permit from another Schengen state can stay in Germany without a visa for 3 months. Here you can see the list of the states which fully apply the Schengen Agreement. And here you can see the list of the states which do not fully apply the Schengen Agreement, or they do not apply it at all. Ireland and Cyprus and Great Britain before Brexit. In Bulgaria, Croatia, and Romania, the Schengen Agreement is not yet fully applied, and the third country nationals from these countries also need a visa. A third country national who has an EU permanent residence permit from another European Union country and intends to stay in Germany for a long period of time must submit an application for residence permit in accordance with Section 38A of German Residence Act within the first 3 months at the Foreigners Office, which in German it's called Ausländerbehörde. In order to examine the application, the Foreigners Office usually asks you for the following documents. First, the form named Antrag auf Erteilung eines Aufenthaltstitels, which in English means application for a residence permit. Second, proof of EU permanent residence permit from the other EU country. Third, valid travel document, which means your passport or your passport replacement. Fourth, proof of the existing livelihood for yourself and for your family members. For example, in the form of a hiring commitment or assets. For the students, the means of income can be, for example, proved through a block account in a German bank or submission of a declaration of commitment by another person, which in German means Verpflichtungserklärung. Fifth, proof of sufficient health insurance coverage. Sixth, proof of registration at the city of your residence in Germany, which in German it's called Meldebescheinigung. Seventh, rental contract for your apartment and a written confirmation of occupancy from your landlord. 8. Where applicable, proof of intended employment or self-employed occupation. And 9. If applicable, proof of the vocational training place or enrollment at a university. After these documents are submitted to the Foreigners Office, if the examination by this office takes longer than the first 3 months, this office must issue a Fiktionsbescheinigung, which in English means fiction certificate for you. This means that your residence is also lawful after these 3 months have passed, and until the Foreigners Office decides about your application for residence permit in accordance with Section 38A of German Residence Act. If you have an EU permanent residence permit from a Schengen state and you can stay for 3 months without a visa in Germany, or you have an EU permanent residence permit with a Schengen visa from another EU country, you can apply for a residence permit directly at your relevant Foreigners Office in the city or region of Germany where you are staying and where you want to live and work. As mentioned before, in order to work as an employee in Germany, you need a residence permit from your relevant Foreigners Office. In addition to that, the approval of the German Federal Employment Agency is also required. So, when you apply for a residence permit in Germany, in your respective Foreigners Office, you send among the other documents the hiring commitment from your future employer to the Foreigners Office. And this office sends your hiring commitment to the German Federal Employment Agency. The Federal Employment Agency then examines if there are enough German citizens, EU citizens, or third country citizens in Germany who are looking for this employment and willing to do such an employment with such requirements or not. This office also examines the employment conditions, which means if you are paid well based on the rules and regulations in Germany. Based on these 2 examinations, this office then decides if it would approve to give you a permission to work or not. Although for a self-employed occupation, you do not need the approval from the German Federal Employment Agency, but the permission to do a self-employed occupation in Germany has certain conditions, which are examined by your relevant foreigners office in Germany when you apply for a residence permit in this office. Thanks a lot for watching my video. If you have any questions concerning the details presented in this video, please do not hesitate to post them below this video, and I will be more than happy to answer them for you.